When we don't know how big a vector is and we want to find its length, we use the length function. As we already know, this function is very useful when we are trying to work with vectors of different sizes. This function works differently on matrices, and let's see how it works. It's going to be probably counterintuitive. So let's say length of matrix equals to length of first matrix. Let's run it. And we get a 4. When the length function is applied to a matrix, it gives you the number of columns of that matrix. So you don't get the total number of elements in the matrix, you get the number of columns. Instead of length, we have another function called size. Size can be used on vectors and on matrices. The size function gives you the dimensions of the vector or the matrix that you give it. So let's try it first with a vector. So size of vector equals size of the vector. So here I have a vector. Let's run it. And we get 1 and 5. So the size function returns a vector of values, of two values, and these two values are the size of whatever we used on the function. In this case we used the vector. This vector has one row and 5 columns, so we get 1 by 5. The first value returned from the size function represents the rows, the second represents the columns. So let's try it on a matrix. So size of matrix equals size first matrix. Let's run it, and we should get, now let's guess what we are going to get. We have 3 rows, each row has 4 elements, so 4 columns, so we should get 3, 4. And there we have it, a 3 by 4 matrix. Now we can use this to our advantage with the second argument that size takes, an optional second argument, and that argument lets us select each of these dimensions. So if you need the size of the rows of the matrix, so how many rows you have in the matrix, you say first them size, so you say size of the first matrix, comma 1. Let's run it. We should get a 3, and there we have it. So this is actually, let's rename this to row size, and column size is size first matrix, comma 2, second dimension. Run. Row size 3, column size 4. Exactly what we have here, exactly what our matrix is, 3 by 4. Now notice that here we are working with the dimensions. We are specifying which dimension of the matrix we want to take, whether we want the first dimension or the second dimension. The first dimension are the rows, the second dimension are the columns. Now let's now say that we want to finally get the quantity of elements in the matrix. How many elements are in that matrix? There are 2 ways to do this. I will show you the harder way and the easier way. So elements in matrix equals, we can take each of the sizes of the dimensions separately, and we know that if we multiply these dimensions, we will get the total number of elements. So this is what I'm going to do now. So size of first matrix of 1 times size first matrix of 2. Let's run it. We should get 12. Of course we do. And there is an easier way with a built-in elements in matrix v2. So this is the numl function. So simply give it the matrix and run it, and it works the same way. It gives you the total number of elements.